This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys. Are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back ranking. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. Who jumped up enough?
That's Austin Nate.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncourt for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields! Hello, Columbus! 51 yards!
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies to Herb Street. We ran out of time. We'll get you rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nate, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern time, the only time zone that didn't have to run at its pro day. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusToCanton.com. That's Matt Bruning, that's Austin Nace, and I'm Felix Sharp on a fresh version of tonight's show. Had the tectonic plates shifted for the top rookie running backs. A fantasy industry titan joins the show, and Fantasy Court makes its second appearance. But Austin, we start with a little bit of housekeeping. Talk to us about the spring game coming up this Saturday.
We are very excited to present our first run at calling a college football game for you guys from a Devy perspective. And we chose the Alabama spring game here this weekend as our first go at that. So that starts at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Of course, the official time zone of the show here. We'll be kicking that off, and we will be going live on here, just the three of us. I'll be doing play-by-play, and Felix and Matt will be providing all the other good commentary that goes along with that. So do not miss that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and if it goes well, who knows? We might bring it back in the future. Who's to say?
Bruning, we are doing a giveaway for the podcast. What jersey and what are we giving away? You're muted, Bruning.
Oh,
well,
gone.
Bruning he's gone. But we are giving away a Javonte Williams jersey. Just go to iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and review. And then in the next few weeks, we will be giving away an autographed Javonte Williams jersey. I'm sure that we will be talking about Javonte Williams a little bit later in the show today. Hey, CampusToCanton.com, the Campus to Canton podcast is also doing a jersey giveaway. That one, Travis Etienne. So you guys can get yourselves into 2 drawings. Go to the Campus to Canton podcast and give them a 5-star rate and review. DM your rate and review to either Austin or Colin for the Campus to Canton giveaway. DM your review to either me, Austin, or Matt for the Devy Debate giveaway, and you'll get yourself in those drawings. So 2 giveaways for 2 of the Campus to Canton podcasts. All right, Austin, April is very busy for us. What do we have going on next week?
Last thing before we hop into the show here, we've done our QB summits over at Campus to Canton. We've done our running back summits so far, where we talk about live our top 10 at the position for Campus to Canton purposes, and then we kind of go private after that and do a larger deep dive. We are doing our wide receivers next Monday. It's going to be all of the guys at Campus to Canton, and we are unveiling our newest member over there as well, who's going to be making an appearance. So always a good time with those, who do not miss out on that either. And that starts at 8:30, I believe. But we'll double 8:30. Matt says yes. So perfect.
By the way, since my computer was messing up, there's a Javonte jersey. I was all excited to show it off. And whatever, Felix couldn't give me 2 seconds, so it's cool.
I mean, I'm trying to be a professional. I'm trying to keep the show going, but all right. This is a fun show today. We have a fantasy industry titan on the show today. CBS Sports senior fantasy writer, co-host of Fantasy Football Today, geographer extraordinaire, Dave Richard, at Dave Richard on Twitter. Dave, we really appreciate you joining us. We've seen, kind of during the pandemic, some of the elite tier of the fantasy industry have kind of reached out to, guys like us and have come on. And I really appreciate it. I DM'd you, didn't expect to get a response. And of course, you DM'd me back relatively quickly and said sure. So we really appreciate you coming on. First question, we're talking about rookies tonight. We're talking about the class. What are kind of your overall observations about the rookie class this year?
Well, first of all, Felix, thank you so much for having me. Felix, I've been seeing your tweets for a while now. I'm impressed by your knowledge, and I know that Austin and Matthew, you bring it too. I've dubbed you guys the FAM, F-A-M, Felix, Austin, Matthew. You guys are doing a great job, and love the Devy debate. Love the idea behind it. I can't wait to see if we get into any debates tonight. The 10,000-foot view of this rookie class is that it's loaded at wide. It's the same stuff you've heard from everybody else. It's loaded at wide receiver. I think fantasy managers and dynasty leagues are going to be really happy with what they find, even in mid round 2 to the end of round 2, when they're looking at wide receivers that have some decent traits that can help them on their dynasty teams. You're not going to see the same thing at tight end and running back. Those are top heavy positions. Tight end, who the only guy really is there. And then quarterback is interesting. And just going back to running backs, I don't think there's a perfect running back in the class. I think every single guy in the class has a flaw. Quarterback, I think there's one guy that everybody's pretty much agreed on is almost flawless. And I think that there's another quarterback that's really, really good. And then after that, you've got 3 quarterbacks that have a chance to be anywhere from solid to special, honestly. So I think it's a class that's got a lot of good talent, especially at wide receiver. Couple of game breakers. Pitts certainly qualifies, but otherwise there's a lot of imperfect diamonds in the draft class. Not so much that it makes, like, if you've got a back half of round 1 or a late round 2 dynasty rookie only pick, I don't think you're going to shy away from the class, but I think you'll be maybe not quite as jazzed as if you've got one of those first 6 picks in your rookie only draft. That seems to be the sweet spot this year.
Sure. So you kind of just covered what the perception of this class is at the different positions. So beyond that, is there maybe a situation or a landing spot? I'm kind of throwing this one to you cold here. It's not on the sheet here, but is there a situation at all, anywhere, any position, that if somebody goes there, it piques your interest a little more than it may have for somebody otherwise?
Sure. So I think if Trevor Lawrence goes to Jacksonville, he'll be really good. No, you guys already knew that.
I hear that's not happening. So, but go ahead.
He slides to the Jets at 2. I'm sure glad the Jets won those 2 games. It's going to work out great for them. I would love to see Najee Harris in Atlanta. And I know the Falcons brought in Mike Davis, and there's a couple of people that for some reason they really think that Mike Davis will be the lead guy for the Falcons this year. Okay, whatever you want to think, pal. I think Harris would give Arthur Smith the type of running back that he had in Tennessee. Not to say that that's what Arthur Smith does. I don't believe that Arthur Smith is I got to pound the rock type of a play caller. I think he likes to adapt. He speaks of adapting all the time. And if he gets Najee Harris, at least it's a rookie running back that he should be very comfortable with. I don't think he would be quite as comfortable giving even 70% of the workload that he gave Derrick Henry to any other back in this class besides Harris. I'd love to see him go there. I'd love to see Harris go to Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh's offensive line is kind of falling apart, and Atlanta's isn't exactly anything great to write home about either, but I think Harris would get a really nice workload in Pittsburgh. I'd be happy if he went to either of those two places. And, we can talk about Miami or Arizona as being other possible destinations. I think you might take Arizona out of it now because they got James Conner, and you might take Tampa out of it too, because they got Leonard Fournette and they signed Gio. So I think some teams are kind of showing that they're not in the running back derby that they might have been in 3 weeks ago. As for wide receiver, where would be a great spot for Jamar Chase? Chase is my wide receiver one. He's my favorite one in the group. The problem with these great rookie wide receivers is that they're going to go to a team that isn't really set up that well. You could say the Dolphins, and it would make sense if he went to the Dolphins, but we'll see about Tua and whether or not he can actually evolve a little bit into a more efficient and explosive passer. Sure, having Chase there would help him out. I'm not sure. I know that Chase to Cincinnati seems like fun. Maybe that's probably long term where the landing spot as far as top 5 teams would be really appealing. Would be if Chase reunites with Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, and then the Bengals eventually get an offensive line to protect Burrow, and Chase becomes that number one guy, and that passing offense would be really, really good if Chase went there. But I think Chase could have a very good career if he's Joe Burrow's target for the next decade.
So you're just talking about Najee and some of the places you'd like to see him go. Seems to be the consensus top 3 running backs are Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, and Travis Etienne. Is that how you have them, and how do you have them ranked?
That is how I have them, exactly like that. And the reason I used to sing the praises of Travis Etienne on our podcast, but the truth is that during the football season, I don't watch a lot of college football. And when I did tune in, I'm usually watching Clemson, or I watched a lot of Najee Harris too, but I saw a lot of Etienne, and every time I watch him, and I watched him for several years, he was amazing. And so when you buckle down and you watch the film, you get a little nervous and you get a little bit of that CJ Spiller vibe. And I'm wondering if there is a little more downside with ETN than there is with the bigger guys, which are Harris and Javonte Williams. And I mean, honestly, the only flaw, the biggest flaw, I should say, that I see in Williams is that only 1 year of big time experience, but he seems to have his head on straight. He seems to have a body for it. Love the way that he plays with that physical style. Think he can contribute as a pass catcher. Think he can come around as a pass blocker. The blocking is a negative for ETN in a major way. I'm not sure if he can actually become an amazing 3-down player of the Alvin Kamara ilk, but that's what we're going to have to hope for with ETN, is that he's already got the receiving part down. He's got the speed. Can he become a better blocker and earn that type of playing time where he's getting 70% of the snaps? And is he going to land with a team that's going to throw him the football 5+ times per game? If that happens, then ETN could leapfrog Harris and Williams and be the number 1 back in fantasy. But going into the draft, just to answer your question, he's 3rd for me. I think that, and I've always gravitated toward bigger backs to begin with, but Harris to me just seems like a safer bet. You want to talk about a mature running back who can catch the ball, who can block. I think Harris can do that. Williams is 2nd. ETN is 3rd. And I know you didn't ask it, but I'll answer it anyway. Michael Carter, 4th on the list. And then after that, there's a drop off, and there's a lot of imperfect running backs in the class.
That was actually going to be the follow-up question, because there is consensus all over the fantasy industry about, the top 5 quarterbacks, the top couple of wide receivers, top 5 or so, who's the top tight end. But there had not been consensus about who the RB4 is. So, I'm interested to hear your take. I believe we all have Javonte at number 2 and ETN at number 3. I'm myself, I'm a big fan. I like size. Oh, Austin, you have ETN too?
Mm-hmm. He's more upside. He has more upside. I'll swing for the fences with him. Yeah. Yep. But I mean, they're not that far apart, but yeah.
Okay. All right. I prefer size at that position. And Dave, I mean, like my RB4 is Ramondre Stevenson out of Oklahoma.
I like him. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like
got
Ramon.
lateral agility, Felix. That is
He
uncommon
does.
for a big dude.
He does. I mean, I think that he has more lateral agility than, Eddie Lacy, who people would compare him to. I think he's a bigger Kareem Hunt. And so hopefully he gets at least day 2 draft capital, because that's what I want to see with my running backs, is at least be taken in the 3rd round. If he falls to the 4th round, we'll see. But I'm hoping that he gets taken in that kind of Zach Moss area. So it's one thing I'm waiting for next Friday. All right, we are going to jump more into the rookies with Dave, but I mean, we were thinking about what we could do, and we did our first fantasy court segment where Matt reluctantly did the character of Judge Matthew Devereaux Bruning. I don't know if he's going to do the character tonight, but we were thinking about what we could do. Austin is a Steelers fan. I myself, I've been a Deontay Johnson fan since I was watching him and Logan Woodside, and I forgot the other Johnson who went to the Dallas Cowboys as a UDFA, and Kareem Hunt. They were all playing at Toledo. And I look at Dave's rankings, and Dave has Chase Claypool ranked ahead of all the other Steeler wide receivers. So this makes for a perfect fantasy court, the return of fantasy court. So with that, Judge Bruning, I will turn the floor over to you.
Dave, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you have to witness this. All right.
He's gonna do it.
I don't want to do this. All right. I gotta stop laughing. Fantasy Court is now in session. Case number 2100694. In the matter of who is the best Pittsburgh wide receiver, Your Honorable Judge Matthew Devereaux Bruning presiding. Will counsel please identify themselves?
Go ahead, Dave. Identify yourself. Who are you taking?
I'm Dave Richard. Oh, do I have to talk like that?
Just say I'm
just
Dave
Matt.
Richard
Just
for
Matt.
Chase.
Yeah, I'm representing Chase Claypool in court today.
I'm Austin Nace. I'll be representing Mr. Juju Smith-Schuster today.
And Felix Sharp, Your Honor, for Deontay Johnson.
This is
Mr.
the most
Richard,
formal
please.
podcast I've ever been on.
We've got 2 attorneys on the bill here, so that helps.
That's why.
Mr. Richard, the floor is yours.
First and foremost, it's an honor to be in your courtroom today, Your Honor. I represent Chase Claypool, especially in non-PPR, but for the sake of the debate, I will defend him as well in full PPR as the most explosive and big play option that the Pittsburgh Steelers have. Now, last year, you can even go back and look at how he did in non-PPR leagues. He averaged more non-PPR points per game than both Deontay and Juju Smith-Schuster. That was as a rookie, without an off-season workout program, without a regular training camp. I'm expecting this year to be a regular training camp for the Steelers, and I expect the Steelers offense to continue to use Chase Claypool,
Uh-oh. Go ahead and conduct your courtroom, Matt.
All right. Mr. Shaw,
Your Honor,
Mr. Richard is incapacitated. Please give us your case on Deontay Johnson.
Let's wait like 10 seconds here and see, because here it comes back already.
Wait a minute, hold on. I lost I have to use a different camera now. Hold on. Hold on. My camera must have died on you.
Man, the joys of technology.
Let me tell you something. And now you're getting a look at my whole living room here. Check this out. Okay.
You're good, Dave. We got your audio.
Okay. Can you see me now? Is this any better?
We can see you. Yes.
Okay.
We can,
or have I been kicked out?
No, you're still in court. It's just picking up your computer audio, not your mic audio.
Okay, and I don't even know why that's happening. But if you want me to fix it, if the court would allow me 10 seconds,
Your Honor, if I would suggest at least, Your Honor, I can take my position, and while counsel, Mr. Richard, is fixing his technological issues, I can go ahead with my presentation. Does that work, Your Honor?
Proceed, Mr. Shop.
Now, Your Honor, I have to admit that I don't have non-PPR stats, but what I do have, Your Honor, is the fact that Deontay Johnson was a third-round pick out of Toledo, and his rate of return, at least in dynasty leagues, has far outpaced Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster, who you had to spend much higher, at least dynasty capital on. When he was a rookie, Deontay Johnson was being taken later than the names of Hunter Renfrow, Darius Slayton, Hakeem Butler, Mecole Hardman, Miles Boykin. But he has produced. In 2020, just last season, he led Steeler wide receivers in PPR points per game. He led Steeler wide receivers in yards. He led Steeler wide receivers in targets with 144 and was second on the team in TD catches despite playing one less game than Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster. In 2019, as a rookie, and Your Honor, you'll have to recall that Ben Roethlisberger was injured much of that season. Well, again, Deontay Johnson, as a third-round rookie out of Toledo, led the Steeler wide receivers in catches, led the Steeler wide receivers in touchdowns, and led Steeler wide receivers in points per game. Again, quite frankly, Your Honor, this debate is really between two horses, and that's Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. Anyone who thinks that Juju Smith-Schuster belongs in this category believes in that the earth is flat. So we're just going to put Mr. Dietz here in the background. But let me say this for the court. Deontay Johnson is already winning. It remains to be seen whether or not Chase Claypool is a better option. They've only played one season together, and in that season, Deontay Johnson outclassed Chase Claypool for as talented as he is. And so for that reason, Your Honor, it's our position, Your Honor, that Deontay Johnson is the best out of the three.
Rightly compelling case, Mr. Shop. Very, very compelling. Mr. Richard, please continue your dissertation.
I apologize for my technical snafus, Your Honor. When I left off, I was talking about Chase Claypool and how he seems to be utilized specifically in and out of the red zone. Out of the red zone, it's the deep ball, and it's that one-on-one competitive catch type of nature that he was drawing and winning with over the course of the season. And then in the red zone, it's screens, it's running plays, and also those same types of one-on-one fades where a gargantuan 6'5" wide receiver is up against a 5'10" corner or a 6-foot safety. It's easy pickings for somebody like Ben Roethlisberger, who has gravitated toward his unique receivers throughout his entire career, whether it's someone who's speedy and shifty like Antonio Brown, or someone who's big, like once upon a time Juju Smith-Schuster, but now it's Chase Claypool. And Claypool, I believe, Your Honor, had more red zone targets than Deontay Johnson had last year. I expect the Steelers' offense to change a little bit, especially because of the offensive line changes and because of the big question mark at running back. They are going to have to lean on all of their wide receivers, but the one that's got the biggest playmaking ability and game-breaking ability is the giant. It is Chase Claypool. He has the most upside, and he also has the fewest drops compared to Deontay Johnson. Claypool is the one that I will happily take in non-PPR, and for the sake of this debate, also take in PPR over Deontay Johnson.
Well, Mr. Richards coming in hot. You had my curiosity. Now you have my attention. Mr. Dietz, the floor is yours.
Your Honor, as dynasty managers, we must always weigh what we have seen previously, but against what we believe we will see in the future. That is, in essence, what dynasty fantasy football is all about, predicting the future based on what we've seen in the past. So I can forgive Mr. Richards and Mr. Sharp for arguing that for Steelers wide receivers, Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. Both have strong physical gifts. Both have flashed high-end dynasty potential. But my argument today does not revolve around flashes or predictions. Instead, I am here to tell you why my client, Mr. John Smith, as is his given name, is the wide receiver that I want to own on the Steelers. Because we've seen him do it. What is it, you may ask? Well, in 2017, as a rookie and the wide receiver 2 on the Steelers, Juju finished as wide receiver 20 overall in half PPR scoring. I'm going to split the difference here between the two gentlemen that went before me. The following year, again, as the second wide receiver on the team, he finished as wide receiver 8. And after a forgettable 2019, as Mr. Sharp mentioned, in which he only played 12 games with that revolving door at quarterback that involved Doug Hodges and Mason Rudolph, he followed that up in 2020 with a wide receiver 17 finish. 3 top 20 finishes in half PPR, all by the age of 24. Conversely, consider Mr. Johnson, also 24 years old, but with only 2 years of NFL experience under his belt and wide receiver 41 and 21 finishes. Wide receiver 21 sounds appealing, right? Well, the kicker is Johnson's biggest season as a middling wide receiver 2 came on 144 targets and 10.5 yards per target. No 100-yard finish, or no 1,000-yard finish, no 100 reception finish. His upside is connected solely to that big target number. And Big Ben, he doesn't have forever. And while Mr. Juju has accomplished a better finish on 14 fewer targets last year in half PPR. Is that sustainable? With Big Ben on his way out and no idea who the next quarterback is, Johnson is linked to the Steelers for at least 2 more years, while Juju is probably on his way out next season. And Mr. Claypool, the wide receiver that I would take second on this team, he is the best athlete of the trio, I will admit. And he is dangered with manufactured touches. He can work deep. And he probably will continue to develop his route tree. All of these things are true. But again, we have not seen it all yet. We've seen Juju score 97-yard touchdowns. We've seen him be a safety blanket for a quarterback. Do we think Chase Claypool can reach these heights? Maybe, but it's too soon to say. And with these players so close in age, that cannot be a determining factor in this argument. So while we think that Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool have wide receiver 1 ceilings, we know that Juju has one. And Your Honor, I ask you to find in favor of my client, Mr. Juju Smith-Schuster. Thank you for your time.
Well, Mr. Nance, you definitely brought the fire. I love Deontay Johnson. He is my favorite wide receiver. However, Mr. Sharp, you failed to defend your client well at all. I cannot declare this a mistrial as much as I want to. I'm going to rule in the favor of Mr. Richards, who brought even better stats than Mr. Nance there, and I believe has the more upside than Claypool. While I like Juju, his TikTok dances are just as bad as his play on the football field. Court is over.
I object, and I move for a mistrial. No
mistrials. No mistrials.
We'll be appealing.
Dave, how do you like Judge Devereaux Bruning?
I love it. I love it. It's pretty funny.
Thank you. The in between Texas, Scottish, Australian accents there. That's
you don't hear that voice very often.
Yeah,
that's different.
It's because it doesn't exist.
We had to peer pressure him into doing the character. So all right.
So
all right.
Hold on a second though, Matthew. You do this every fantasy court?
No, this unfortunately just started. And the worst part about it is I actually have a whole costume that I was hoping to have here today just for you. A fake mustache, a judge's robe. The judge's robe was too tight for my manly physique here, and I would have ripped out of it, and my cowboy hat is not here yet either. But that will be premiering soon on a coming episode.
Well, I can't wait to see that. To me, that's the best part of fantasy court is Judge Devereaux.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Getting down. And thank you for ruling in the favor of my client.
Absolutely.
Well, Dave, if you're going to make it to the Fantasy Expo in August, you might get to see Judge Devereaux there because our Campus to Canton group is going to be speaking and presenting at the Fantasy Expo.
Awesome.
So
I really hope I'm there.
All right. Well, since we have Dave on the show, we wanted to do a 2-round rookie mock draft, super flex tight end premium. Easy as it sounds. Dave, since you are our guest, we will give you the first pick.
Okay. So to me, in a super flex tight end premium, there's only two directions you can go in with the first pick. It's Kyle Pitts or it's Trevor Lawrence. And goodness gracious, I think it would depend on what you need. If you need a quarterback, then obviously you're going to take Trevor Lawrence. And if you don't, then I think you go with the tight end premium and Kyle Pitts. But here's what I know. There is only one tight end in this draft class that is anywhere close to Kyle Pitts. There really hasn't been a tight end like this in the last 6 or 7 or 8 draft classes, to be honest with you. I mean, you probably have to go back to, Kittle was a 5th-round pick once upon a time. Mark Andrews, I think, was like a 3rd-round pick. So tight ends like Kyle Pitts don't come around very often. And if
Jeremy Shockey, I think, the last one.
Well, you know, when I watch Kyle Pitts play, that's who I think of as Jeremy freaking Shockey. You know, goodness gracious, why don't we throw out Frank Wycheck while we're at it? No, Shockey was great, of course. He played for my Canes. I'm going to take Kyle Pitts in the tight end premium Superflex League. A, because he's a unicorn. B, because it's a super flex. It doesn't mean I have to start 2 quarterbacks. I can still start one. Hopefully, Kyle Pitts is going to be locked onto my fantasy squad for a decade.
It's a great pick. He's going to have the best season for a tight end as a rookie, or otherwise I'm going to sing the Michigan Fight song. So I hope so.
I think so too. It still comes down to where he goes, whether it's going to end up being Atlanta or Miami or Cincinnati or Detroit. It's going to be one of those 4 teams. But he's got a great chance of a long, interesting career, but it could really get started in a major way if it's Atlanta.
All right. Well, I guess I am on the clock here at 102, and I guess he made my choice pretty easy. I'm going to go Trevor Lawrence.
Tyler Lawrence?
Tyler Lawrence. That's his long-lost brother. Top quarterback in the class. I love him. Upside is enormous, and I can't think of anybody else I would rather take here in this spot. So,
well, that makes my picks just as easy. I'm going Justin Fields. You guys know he's my argument to be the QB1 in this class. I think he's got just as high, if not a higher ceiling than Trevor Lawrence. I don't care if he goes Jets, 49ers, Patriots, Detroit Lions, wherever he ends up going. I think he's going to be absolutely phenomenal. So I will take Fields at 3.
You know, my conviction about Zach Wilson is just I'm getting weaker and weaker, especially if Trey Lance lands in San Francisco. But I don't think I'm there yet. So I'm going to take Zach Wilson here at number 4.
And so I'm up again at 5, right? And this is a tough spot because Superflex, I see what you see in Trey Lance. I think that he's got potential to be an amazing NFL quarterback, but I still see Jamar Chase, and I think he's one of the safest players on the board. I'm going to say that he's the next best guy, and getting him at 5 almost feels kind of like a steal a little bit that I'm getting Jamar Chase this late, but that's going to be my pick. If I had a little more conviction in Trey Lance and I really thought that he was a better passer than what we saw at North Dakota State, and honestly, his pro day, he missed 7 throws on his pro day. That kind of sticks in the back of my head a little bit. He's got great tools, but Chase is already like a made man in the NFL, and I think he's going to be outstanding no matter where he goes.
Man, I was really hoping that you would go the opposite way with that and take Trey Lance. So I could scoop up Mr. Chase. Because I don't think I want to go with Trey Lance quite this early either. It is a little scary. I pretty much agree with how you put that. So I think I'll start the running back run here. I'll take Najee Harris. And I am starting to get more and more resigned to the fact that the Steelers are going to blow their 1st-round pick on him, and I'm going to be so upset. I'm going to have to hop off the draft show that we're doing live if that happens, because I like him. He's just not worth a 1st-round draft pick. He'll never be worth a 1st-round draft pick, but here we are. So Najee Harris, here you go.
Well, as I've talked about many times on here, I am all about getting running backs early. I think that's how you kind of have to build your team out, especially in Dynasty. And there's only one running back I think is close to Najee in this class. I've been talking about him all season. That's Javonte Williams. I think regardless of where he goes, I still think he's got the chance to be a true workhorse back. He can work in the receiving game. He's got that lateral agility Dave and Felix were talking about earlier with Ramondre Stevenson that I love. Doesn't have that home run speed that Travis Etienne has, but as all you guys know, I'm not that big on Travis Etienne, so I will take Williams here at 7.
Yeah, I mean, this makes my decision really easy. I'm going to go ahead and take Trey Lance. Matt Waldman has compared him to a combination of Steve McNair and Matthew Stafford. Big, strong, stout quarterback who can also run. Is probably the most aggressive runner out of the top four. I would say that. So he has the upside as quarterback one. Is probably, can be used at the goal line like Cam Newton. So I'm going to go with Trey Lance here at 8.
And so now I believe I'm up again at number 9. And to me, the debate is between 3 guys. You've got Travis Etienne, who's got that explosiveness. You've got Jalen Waddle, speaking of explosiveness, and you've got Devontae Smith, who's got that very good hands and sweet feet combination. Seems like he's got a real good head for the game. Who's the safest of the 3? I'm going to go with the guy who's the thickest of the 3. And that's Jalen Waddle. The fact that he's explosive with the football in his hands. I love the way he moves. I think he plays a little bit bigger than he actually is. And I think that Jalen Waddle has a chance to maybe not do exactly what Jamar Chase can do, but be right behind him. So again, kind of leaning towards safety, not ready to take Mac Jones. There isn't another tight end that I like. And figuring that Travis Etienne could have a little more downside than what people might be willing to admit. I'm going to take Waddle at 9.
That's twice now where you said a bunch of names, and I'm like, man, I hope he doesn't take that one, and then he takes that one. Now we're back. Now we're back to the drawing board again. So I like Felix said about his convictions being a little shaken in Zach Wilson's. That is how I feel about Rondale Moore, who in a lot of these practice runs in the past, I've been taking her in this range, and not because I think any less of him because that he's 5'7", but because I worry the NFL will. So until I get some sort of confirmation from them that he's still going to be, a second round guy, maybe in the draft, I think I have to pass on him. And so I'm going to go Devonta Smith. It's between him and Rashad Bateman. I think at that point are really the only options there. I could have gone ETN, but I went Harris, and I don't know. I will go Devonta Smith. I don't think I've taken him in a mock ever. So just trying something new here today.
So with the depth of the wide receiver class, and again, I'm not as big a fan on not as big a fan on Travis Etienne. I'm going to take Mac Jones here. He's my quarterback 4. I have him above Wilson. I think, again, I know he doesn't have the upside as the other quarterbacks in this class, but I've said before, I think he's right in that QB 15 range every single year, regardless of where he goes. Got that great football IQ, great pocket manipulation. He's just I hate to use the term game manager because it gets used negatively, but I think he's going to be at least decent in the NFL moving forward. So give me a guy that in a super flex format, a guy that you can plug in as your QB2 every single week, and I think feel comfortable with that is a great pick getting here at 11. So I'm going to go Mac Jones.
I still like Rondale Moore, how explosive he is. I mean, if he was 5'9", I don't think this would be a conversation. And quite frankly, I think that he would be taken already. That said, I'm considering Moore, Terrence Marshall, and Rashad Bateman. This is all going to be sorted out by draft capital. And so right now, I think I'm gonna stick with Moore. I'm gonna go with Rondale Moore here.
I get it. And he's fun, man. He's a lot of fun to watch. Small, but man, is he shifty. He could be a lot of fun at the next level. And now I've got an interesting decision. I'm doing it again to you, where I'm going to name 2 players I'm looking at. I see Travis Etienne. No one's taken him yet, right? I'm not crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
he's still there. Yeah.
Terrace Marshall is still there. I think I do have to pull the trigger on Travis Etienne at this point, and knowing that his upside is still very good, certainly at least right there with Najee Harris, if not higher than his. That's going to be the pick, and I actually feel like that's the biggest steal so far, believe it or not. Etienne making it to me all the way down here.
Well, Dave just got Travis Etienne in technically pick 13, so that could be round 2 of a 12-team draft. Let me just recap the first round. We've got Dave taking Kyle Pitts, Austin with Trevor Lawrence, Matt with Justin Fields. I took Zach Wilson. Dave took Jamar. I tell you what, if Dave's team has like quarterbacks, his team is going to rip it up this season because his skill position players are loaded. So Dave took Jamar Chase, Austin took Najee, Matt with Javonte, I took Trey Lance, Dave took Jalen Waddle, Austin took Devonta Smith. At 11, we got Mac Jones, and I took Rondale Moore at number 12, and Dave just took Travis Etienne at 13. Austin, we're on to you.
Decisions keep getting tougher and tougher. This isn't getting easier here, folks. So I'm going to take the other name that you just mentioned again. I'm going to go Marshall here. I think of all the wide receivers in this class, outside of Jamar Chase, who I think, isn't like just an objectively better prospect, but Marshall has this kind of alpha potential profile with, size, speed, college production. He has most of the things that you look for there. I wish his hands were just a little better, but in the second round, I think you take a swing there. So I'll go Terrace Marshall here at pick 14.
All right, so that makes my decision a little bit easier. I was worried Austin might go here. I'm taking Rashad Bateman. He's my wide receiver 4. I love everything about his game. I've said, on our podcast and other places, I think he's the Justin Jefferson of this class. He's getting overlooked. He doesn't have the speed, doesn't have the size, but he is a phenomenal route runner. He's got great hands. I think he is just a phenomenal wide receiver prospect. So to get him here at 15, I'm actually pretty happy about that. So I will take Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, this actually makes my decision really easy. I'm going to double up on Moore's and take Elijah Moore here. It tested really well at his pro day, just like every single player did this year at their pro day. But slot receiver extraordinaire. I think he'll get day 2 draft capital, and he'll start as a slot receiver somewhere. So
this makes my pick even easier. This is the dawning of the age of Kadarius. Age of Kadarius. Thank you very much. Kadarius Toney in Florida, 10 receiving touchdowns last year. Small in stature, but man, can he move on a football field. And I wonder if that intoxicates a coach to take him in late round 1. I've seen him mocked to New Orleans and Tampa Bay. Oh, my goodness. I would love to see him in one of those offenses, hoping that's happening. Fingers crossed. One of the best second-round picks you can take in your rookie-only draft this year, Kadarius Toney.
Man, that would be an embarrassment of riches with him in Tampa.
Seriously.
I don't know how you cover all those guys. I don't want to think about that. So this is tight end premium, and we are starting to get into the range where I start thinking about some of these other guys here. So I'm going to pull the trigger on Pat Freiermuth, who I think is just totally getting lost in the shuffle this year, produced really well in an offense that is not modern at all at Penn State. No. I think if he had been in an offense that would have been willing to utilize him, he's not on the Kyle Pitts level of an athlete or as a player, but a team could have tried to get the ball in his hands a little more, and they would have benefited from that. I think he can be a, TJ Hawkinson, stylistically in the NFL. And, and Hawkinson has some nice value after his second year here. I think Freiermuth will be viewed similarly in the not so distant future.
So that makes my pick a little bit harder. I was going to go Freiermuth there. We've got Amon-Ra St. Brown on the board, Tylan Wallace, Kenneth Gainwell, Trey Sermon, Michael Carter, Jamar Jefferson. But I do think there's a tad bit of a drop-off at tight end after Brevin Jordan, so I'm going to go Brevin Jordan. I think he's going to be – I'm a little bit worried about him going into the NFL. I think he's got all the tools to be a really good tight end and a good offensive weapon. Obviously, I've said before, I think the landing spot is going to be crucial for him because he's got to go to a team that's going to use him the correct way. That being said, if he does go to a team that uses him the correct way, I think he's got a shot to be a top 12 tight end right out the bat with his skill set. So I will take Brevin Jordan.
I've said on this show that I don't prefer contested catchers, and I think that that's what Tylan Wallace is. At least he was in college, but I think that that's what he was asked to do. I think he has a skill set to be more than that in the NFL. We might see him used more diversely in an offensive scheme. Plus, I think he has at least one elite trait in his kind of jumping and leaping contested catchability. And I know he's not a 6'3" wide receiver, but I think that we might see that the best of Tylan Wallace is yet to come. So I'm going to take Tylan Wallace here at 20. And we're back to you, Dave.
And I don't see a quarterback that I'm ready to sink this pick into. And I'm not sure if there's a receiver that I really love here. There's Dwayne Eskridge and there's Amari Rodgers. I'm a fan of Amari Rodgers. I just think he's a solid slot receiver that can come right into the NFL and catch 50 passes as a rookie and develop from there. I'm going to take a chance on Michael Carter. That's going to be my pick here. And he's a 0 as a pass blocker, but he's got really good hands. He's got great moves. I think he does have potential to be at worst a an air back, a satellite back, and at most, maybe he learns how to pass block, and maybe he can develop into being one of those short, shifty, speedy lead running backs for a team. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's one of my favorite watches from this year. Loved watching his games. He's my RB4. We've already talked about that. That's going to be my pick here in round 2.
So I think at this point, I'm rapidly running out of guys that I have a second round grade on. One of the few guys I do have left that has one is Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is going to be the non-flashy, non-sexy guy that goes in the NFL this year and puts up better numbers than everybody thinks as a rookie. I just think from a technical standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, I think he has most of the things that you want, and I think he has positional versatility. So, I'm not saying he's not going to have the kind of year Justin Jefferson did, but he can go to any team, a team that runs a lot of 2 wide, 3 wide, do a lot of different stuff, and I think can get playing time right off the bat.
I just can't quit him. And I can't go through a mock without picking him. I'm taking my guy, Jamar Jefferson. I just have to do it. I believe in him. He's my RB4. I think he's got everything to be a good back at the NFL level. I've said before, I think he will be an RB2 if he gets a shot at a starting job. And even if he doesn't, I think he can be a very good complement. Trey Sermon's right there too. Obviously, I like Trey Sermon a lot. Injuries scare me a little bit. I'm not as big on Ramondre as Felix and Dave are. So I refuse to go through any draft or mock without getting my guy, and it's grab your guy season for me at this point. So I'm taking Jamar Jefferson.
Yeah, there are a couple of running backs that I'm thinking of here. Trey Sermon being one, Ramondre Stevenson being one, and Kenneth Gainwell being one. And I think that draft capital and landing spot is going to help sort this situation out. But quite frankly, I'm going to go with the guy that I have fourth, and that's Ramondre Stevenson. So that is going to be the entirety of the draft. In round 2, we had Dave go with Travis Etienne, then Terrence Marshall, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney, Pat Freiermuth, Brevin Jordan, Tylan Wallace, Michael Carter, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Jefferson, Ramondre Stevenson. You still got, at the very least, you got Tamarion Terry out there.
Seth Williams.
Seth Williams, who could get day 2 draft capital. So, that early 3rd round is really looking good, in dynasty leagues. You're going to get some value there, at the very least in Superflex. So, that's it. That's going to be our show. Oh,
did I miss that? You skipped right over it, buddy.
I skipped right over it. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. I did skip. I don't know how I did. I just guess I wasn't paying attention.
It's just right. my great delivery in the fantasy court just threw you off. That's all it was.
It did throw me off. Well, I think that so let's go. Dave, this is the question that we do in every that we've asked for every guest. Zach Wilson or Justin Fields? Who you got between those two?
I'm taking Fields. I'm more comfortable with him, the experience he has, the throws that he can make, the plays that he did make. All this talk about him not being able to get to his second read or make a second read. I feel like there's some evidence of that, but I also think there's plenty of evidence of him being able to find that second guy and, more importantly, be able to make an off-schedule play, an improvisational play, easy for me to say. I think that you could see Justin Fields step up. I think he's a leader. I think he's got the mindset to be a great quarterback, and he fits right into the athletic profile that you're looking for from an NFL quarterback, in that he can run, he can move around, he can throw with accuracy while on the run. I just think he gives a team a whole bunch of options, and I know Zach Wilson can do it too, but he's only had 1 year's worth of experience. He's had a couple of injuries. That throws me off a little bit as well. I just myself feel more comfortable going with Justin Fields ahead of Zach Wilson.
And I think we all know all three of our pick for that one. We are all, well, I'm the only one that's leaning Zach Wilson. I mean, I've kind of hedged on the last show, but for a couple of months there, I'd been on Zach Wilson. Dave, when Rondale Moore weighed in, when he measured at 5'7". People were very excited about him until that point. Mm-hmm. Which more are you taking in this class, Rondale or Elijah? You talked about Rondale, him being shifty. I agree with you, but 5'7" is small. 5'7" is really small.
Yeah, it's hard to find guys who have been that effective while being that small. what I'm worried about is that Rondale might have a couple of he might have like 2 or 3 really exciting seasons, and then injuries hit him and he falls out. So Elijah Moore might last a little bit longer. And not to say that Elijah Moore isn't as explosive as Rondale Moore, but I like the uber quickness that Rondale gives versus Elijah. I see Elijah Moore. I see a lot of receivers that are really good. You know, I'm not saying he's going to be A.J. Brown. Obviously, those are some easy comparisons to make. Deebo Samuel is another guy. Just, you know, a thick wide receiver that can make a play after the catch. But Rondale, he's not as thick, but he can definitely make plays after the catch. And if he lands in the right offense and he's given the right opportunity, I think he can be very special. I'm not sure it would be for a long period of time. Give me Rondale. I think he's a little more fun than Elijah Moore.
I agree with you. And I'm hoping for Rondale Moore, actually right here from Trinity High School where I'm at in Louisville, Kentucky. So I'm pulling for him. Dave, we really appreciate you coming on the show. You didn't have to do that. I mean, I think people know to follow you at Dave Richard on Twitter, follow your content at CBS Sports. And listen to Fantasy Football Today. Is there anything else that you want to say before we get you out of here?
You know, just everybody who's watching and listening, please do me a favor. The next time there's breaking sports news, and it doesn't have to be football, any sport, give CBS Sports HQ a try. That's our free 24/7 streaming service. It's got scores, it's got news, it's got highlights, it's got smart analysis. But when there's breaking news, we go border to border, finding analysts to break it down and help you come to a conclusion on what does this news mean, whether it's, you know, a surprise winner at the Masters or a no-hitter in San Diego, something like that. When there's breaking news, give it a shot. Don't reach for your remote for your TV. Go online. It's free. You don't have to give your email address or nothing. Go to cbssportshq.com and watch breaking sports news live as it happens.
And Dave, during the football season, at least in season past, you guys have had the Saturday night radio show and then the Sunday morning television show. Are those? That's part of my routine is listening to you guys on Saturday and Saturday night and Sunday morning. Is that going to be continuing this season?
We are still going to be on Sunday mornings on CBS Sports HQ. So cbssportshq.com, Fantasy Football Today. It's on every day during the football season, but on Sundays, 10 a.m. until after kickoff. We go after kickoff, believe it or not, to help people get ready for their fantasy weeks. Every single week. We've been doing it for over a decade. Fantasy Football Today on cbssportshq.com.
Well, again, Dave, thank you for joining us. Again, go to CBS Sports HQ. Catch these guys. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably know that already. That's going to be our show for tonight. You can find our written content at campus2canton.com. You can follow the show on Twitter at Devy Debate. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We went a little long with Dave, but we will get him rescheduled soon. Matt Bruning for Austin Nace, for Dave Richard, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. We appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for
you guys were so much fun. And love talking and getting your opinions on the Steelers receivers. And it was a good debate on Juju, man. Defending him as well as you did.
He's my favorite. I love him so much.
His guy.
He's my favorite player. He's just I don't know. I love everything about him. So
okay.
I was like, well, we could do the Steelers wide receiver conversation, but what position would Dave take? And then I looked at your rankings. I'm like, oh, well, we can do this is easy then.
Yeah. No, and I love Claypool. Like, I'm a big sucker for height, weight, speed guys who have some talent. Like that stuff can overshadow a little bit of the talent, and he's a good guy too. So. Yeah. We'll see how Ben does. I mean, the one thing that scares me about that offense is Roethlisberger's arm falling off by week 5, and then they're stuck with Rudolph the rest of the way, and that's going to be a nightmare. So I'm not sure if I've got them ranked all a little too high, but we'll see what happens. But you guys know your stuff, and like I said, I see your tweets on Twitter all the time, so it was an easy decision for me to come on and hang out with you guys. Thank you so much for inviting me and having me on, and I look forward to talking to you guys down the line.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. CBS has been very good to us. Alan True, who's works for 24/7 Sports, who's is owned by CBS, came on with us a few weeks ago. So again, we just appreciate your time. Thank you, and we'll connect with you on Twitter.
You got it, guys. Have a great night. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, you too.
All right.
Are we hanging out tonight or?
It's up to you
Up
guys.
to you guys. My deadline's gone, baby. Or the deadline's tomorrow, but all this stuff.
I got to send an email tonight, but I'm good. I thought that was fun.
That was a lot of fun. That Pittsburgh debate was good. It was really good.
Mhm.
I agree.
Mine would have been better if I had more time. I just didn't have time. And Bruning, I realized, I never realized until we're on the show that I'm logged into your thing. Yeah, because I just go to StreamYard and it's already on your thing. So,
yeah, I mean, I would say that too. You guys definitely killed it because already being biased toward one party and that party still lost the debate is a little disappointing. I was already ready to rule in your favor, Felix. It's like Deontay's the guy, baby. I love Deontay.
Yeah, I do too. I don't understand why Austin doesn't like him when he is a third-round draft pick that has turned into a wide receiver one. I mean, that wide receiver class sucked. And you probably have the second best receiver to DK Metcalf.
I don't dislike him. For fantasy, I don't like him. In real life, I'm fine with him. I like all three of our receivers a lot. I just think in fantasy, he's wildly overrated. He has to have huge target numbers or else he won't. He is not an efficient player, in my opinion. He is not on the same level in that as Juju, and Claypool can do so many different things that I think no matter what, he's always going to be involved in a game plan. I don't think Deontay necessarily is.
Juju can't do a lot of different things. To me, Juju is a glorified tight end. Like a slot receiver is going to be used, low A dot going to be used over the middle of the field. Whereas Deontay, if Deontay wasn't there, I think Juju Smith-Schuster wouldn't be that good. Juju has always had somebody outside taking coverage away from him. If Deontay wasn't there, I think that Juju wouldn't have the statistics that he had because personally, I don't think that he's a tough guard. And Deontay Johnson is.
Teams cover him a lot more than they shift things toward Juju more than they shift toward Deontay, in my opinion, and from what I've seen. So I wouldn't know. He's not like I said, he's not bad. I think in terms of having three receivers, we possibly if you combined, what the average value of every team's 1, 2, and 3, we might have the best, in the league, when it comes down to that sort of thing. But I didn't realize that.
I didn't realize that Juju almost had 100 catches last year until I went and looked at but he's still, I just like these Jarvis Landry type. I don't know. I want more upside than that. So
he's got 3 top 16 finishes. How much more upside do you want, man? In 4 years.
So did Jarvis Landry. I'm just saying,
PPR? Now I gotta look at this and see in half.
Jarvis Landry was First of all, Jarvis Landry has the most catches in NFL history up to this point in his career. But Jarvis Landry was a wide receiver one his first 2 or 3 years in PPR, but he was used close to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
and
I like volume.
Well, I tell you what, even in standard, Landry has done well.
Yeah, that was going to be my argument against you if I was part of that. Is you said that you don't think Deontay would not have done what he did without the volume. Well, volume's king in fantasy, though. That was always my argument about why I hated Melvin Gordon. I don't think he's a talented running back, but he got volume. That's all that matters. If Deontay's still going to get the volume, it doesn't matter if he's more talented than Juju or Claypool. If the volume's going to him, as long as he doesn't drop every pass thrown to him, he's going to produce. And that's why I like him. Because
I think the kid predicting that he continues to get that sort of target share also is a concern of mine. I'm not sure that he will. So that's, I think Claypool is going to demand more touches, and Juju's the superior player. I think Juju is going to get more looks next year. I think basically what would happen last year is Deontay would shit the bed, and then Ben would pump him with targets to kind of get his confidence back up. It did it a couple times. I think without those games, his season would look fairly different. So I mean, maybe he, if there are scenarios in which he doesn't necessarily need the amount of targets because his explosive plays go up and he doesn't, his drops go down and things like that. And if that happens, then maybe I am underselling him a little bit. I'm just not sure that he's capable of that.
My goodness, Justin Fields is good.
I hate talking bad about a Steeler though. I like him. I think he's a good player.
No,
they need a quarterback. They're going to end up taking somebody in the second round again, who's just not going to be the guy. They're going to take.
If we go Najee developmental quarterback 1-2, I swear.
So what's going to happen? It's going to be Najee.
Kyle Trask. It's going to be Kyle Trask.
Oh, that would be even better.
Kyle Trask in the second round. So I don't know what they do to resolve that. What's going to happen is Ben is going to keep you guys around 9-7, 10-6, something like that. How many 8 teams make the playoffs now, right? The Steelers are going to get in. You're probably losing the first or second round. Ben's going to retire. You're going to go I gotta remember now. So now it's 4 in 13, 17 games. So you're going to go 4 and 13. Oh, I mean, you got to hope that they have a bad season next year to get, Rattler, Howell, Corral. I mean, because that's what you're looking at is hopefully, well, shoot, if you make the playoffs this year, and Ben retires, you're not going to have one of those high picks. But I don't know. I don't know how you cheer for a team. I don't know how I've never cheered for a winning football team. So I'm always cheering for my team to lose games towards the end of the season because the games stop mattering after November. I'm never in the games never matter for the Lions in December and January. So
yeah, I used to remember what that felt like, Felix. Not so much anymore. No,
I really like with the Browns.
I actually do want to ask you that, Austin, because I don't like the Steelers. I respect their organization. I do think they're one of the better run organizations in the entire NFL. I love Mike Tomlin. I've always said if that dude got when the Steelers fans bitching about him and want to fire him, I'm if they fire before Kevin Stefanski, because I love Stefanski, I'd be fire whoever we have and bring Tomlin on board. I think he's a phenomenal coach. I don't think they make the playoffs this year. I have a lot of questions about that defense, that offensive line, and Big Ben. I don't know that. I hate saying this because it's hard for me to trust what I saw last year. Decades and decades of punishment has made me not believe that Cleveland's going to repeat the success they had last year, even though everything points toward them. I mean, getting Clowney, now they actually have off-season stuff that they're going to get to do. Second year of Baker in that offense. I don't think Baltimore is going away either. I think the AFC is going to be good. So do you think Pittsburgh is going to make the playoffs?
Yeah, they'll make the playoffs. I think Baltimore wins the division. I don't think Clowney does anything. That moves the needle 0% for me if I'm a Cleveland fan.
I disagree.
Unless you guys were just an extremely porous run defense, because he does
we were. That's the problem. That's the problem. Our run defense is horrible, and that's why they brought him in. It's not everybody thinks it's to take that pressure off Myles Garrett. I agree with you. I don't think any offensive line's going in. They're oh, now we've got to double team Clowney. No, they're still double teaming Garrett. But I think Clowney does is he helped stop the run. That was our if you were, I don't know if you watched it, that Monday Night Football game against Baltimore, I think in week 13 or 14, where Lamar had the cramps. That was what killed them is Lamar ran all over him, and so did JK. It wasn't the pass. They had one big pass to Mark Andrews. That was it. So I think that's what Clowney does. He comes in and he slows down J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and Lamar Jackson, which I think is what they look at right now as their biggest rivals in that division to try and win the division.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead, Felix.
No, go ahead, Austin.
I was going to say, I think your fears of the Steelers, or your worries about the Steelers defense are a little unfounded. We only really lose Bud. And Highsmith played really well at the end of the year. Highsmith is not the run stopper. He's not the player that Bud is. If he's 70% of Bud, but I think he's as good of a replacement as you could really hope for without having spent a top 10 pick on a replacement. I think the safeties are going to be fine, linebackers are going to be fine, the D line all comes back, so I'm not that worried about that. I do think Kevin Colbert has done a really poor job this offseason of evaluating the roster in terms of where it's going, which is weird to say because I've never seen him really do it before. But if all these talks about what they're doing with their first round pick are true, like I'm a full believer that they should just double tap offensive line round 1, round 2. BPA, tackle, guard, center, any of the three, I think, is their route. And then you kind of build for a life where, Ben is almost certainly gone after this year. Now you have a beefy line, and now you can go into next year's draft and however we do this year. I don't think we have a top, 5 or 6 or 8 pick or whatever. So you're saying, okay, maybe we can't take a top quarterback, but we can, we can build around the run game or do something else a little different with that, where I think doing it this way, like you're doing it, like you're drafting the running back and then you beef up the line. I'd rather beef up the line and then, the opposite direction.
I honestly don't think they're going Najee. I really don't. I just say that as, and again, not a Steelers fan, just from afar, always watching, because I always pay attention to what Cincy does, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, because up until, again, this past year, I've always had the false hope. All right, well, this is the year we're going to do something. What are these teams doing to make themselves better, and what are we doing to work with that? Because, I know some teams are like going, well, hey, like, we've got to figure out a way to beat Kansas City. Like, you got to get out of your division first before you have to worry about beating Kansas City. And we've got good teams in our division in Pittsburgh and Baltimore. I don't think they're going Najee. I mean, they brought back, who did they bring in? Did they bring in a running back this offseason?
No, Kalen Balaj.
Snell, Balaj, McFarland. Is that it?
There's somebody else really terrible. Those are the best 3 names. We have one other where 2 other guys signed and they're bad.
Yeah, that does suck. But I don't know. I just don't see them going Najee in the first round. I could be wrong, but I don't think it happens.
They don't seem like the type of organization that would go running back first round. They just and especially in this class, I don't think that there is a running back that should be taken in the first round in this class. So, and if the Steelers did it, it would seem uncharacteristic for how they build.
The problem is that it's always like you can always predict who we're going to take based on, because Tomlin and Colbert will go to their pro day. That's how like the pool of players that we're choosing from for our first round pick. Like the last 8 or 10 years or so, like going the whole way back to DeCastro, I think was like the one. Like they every single year since then, Tomlin and Colbert have been at whatever player we took in the first round's pro day. And I know this year's a weird year, so maybe if there was a year that because of visits and stuff are limited, if there's a year that maybe they buck that trend, it's this year. But they were at like Michigan, Notre Dame, Alabama, Clemson, and like 1 or 2 others. So that like if you just look at the pool of players that would make sense in the first round, you're looking at basically like ETN, Najee, Kwity Paye, or Mayfield maybe at tackle. I think that would be
Owusu Koromora.
That he would be the guy at Notre Dame, because there are rumors that they really like him.
I don't think he falls that far though.
I don't either, but
he might. I was looking at a mock the other day that actually had him going to the Browns, which I would love. So I guess Pittsburgh technically picks before Cleveland, so I guess he could fall that far if he fell to the Browns. Yes, I would love. Yes, it does, and I would love if he fell to the Browns too. I want him or Collins out of Tulsa, especially now that they got. I was hoping they'd go defensive end, but since they brought in, I know it's only a 1-year deal, but our linebackers are trash. I want them to go linebacker so bad. And I hope one of those 2 falls to him. But yeah, I was
going to say Cleveland's defense and adding John Johnson and
I love
and Jadeveon Clowney.
Andrew,
but you're going to get back. You're going to get Greedy Williams back too. I mean, Greedy Williams was a highly
the thing I don't like about Greedy is I just don't think he fits in that defense the way that they play it. I don't think that physical of a corner, and I'm worried because it was it was a nerve issue, and it kept him out all year. And that just worries me. When it wasn't like a broken bone and he had trouble rehabbing. It was a nerve issue, and he couldn't come back. I mean, it happened literally the first practice last year, and then he could not come back the entire season. That stuff scares me. I do like getting Delpit back. I mean, I'm a little bit worried because, again, torn Achilles. I don't know how explosive he's going to be anymore, but I think putting him back there with Johnson, I think is going to be great for that secondary. I do think that they need to go cornerback in the second round, but I also saw again, I can't remember whose mock I was looking at today. They had the Browns taking Rondale Moore in the second round, which I would absolutely love. What they do with Odell in the running game and everything, but then they did that with Rondale Moore, and you have Odell and Jarvis Landry. Oh my God, that'd be so sexy. So I'd love to see Rondale Moore go there, but it's gonna be. I'm excited because I feel bad because last year we did the live show and I was pissed that they took Jedrick Wills. I was not happy about that, and then that ended up being like an amazing pick, and I had to eat my words all year because I wanted them to go Thomas, and the Giants took him at 4, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? So.
The draft is gonna be fun.
What are you gonna do if Detroit takes Kyle Pitts, Felix?
I doubt I will throw something if they take Kyle Pitts.
Why?
Especially if they take Kyle Pitts. If they take first of all, I mean, there's no other team that's taken like so many tight ends in the first. Brandon Pettigrew, Eric Ebron, T.J. Hawkinson, and Kyle Pitts. It doesn't make sense, and I think Kyle Pitts is like a bell or a whistle. Like you need that team's foundation is so shaky. They need a quarterback. So if they took, like hypothetically, if they took Kyle Pitts over either Trey Lance or Justin Fields, I would be.
I don't think they take him over Fields. I really don't. I honestly don't think Fields falls past 3, but I don't see them taking him over. I honestly don't think they take him over Lance either. I think the hometown kid and the fact that they need a quarterback, I don't think they do it. I honestly don't think
hometown kid
Detroit either. Isn't he from Michigan
he's
somewhere?
From Minnesota, I thought.
Oh, is he?
Ooh. Yeah, Trey Lance is from Minnesota.
Minnesota? I thought he was from Michigan. I don't think Pitts makes it to Detroit anyways.
It's going to be that's a port like a franchise making a bad decision. Like Cincinnati taking Kyle Pitts, that just fits. Like them doing something like that.
Poverty franchise, man. Poverty franchise. They really are. If they take an offensive weapon there at that pick, they are the definition of a poverty franchise. I feel so bad for Joe Burrow if they do that. But people act like you need a pass catcher. They have Boyd and Higgins. Those are two very good receivers.
Right. And they had John Ross, which to me, John Ross is fine as a third wide receiver. So
Ross went for the Giants this offseason.
Yeah. No, I'm saying they had.
They
had him. Yeah, like they could have just like that receiver core to me is just fine. And
they have a legitimate pass catching running back too.
Yeah, right.
If you need a third option,
who is their tight end?
Drew Sample.
The Bengals
Drew Sample. They don't have a tight end.
Drew Sample.
Second round pick, baby. Put some respect on that name.
That's because they're stupid. They had who was their tight end? He was actually playing good until he tore his ACL.
Was it Croft?
Croft is in Buffalo now. Yeah, CJ Uzoma. That's right.
CJ Uzoma.
He was actually playing good last year until he got hurt.
I don't know. The Bengals, they just make the stupidest freaking decision at every turn possible. It's honestly impressive. Their first 6 picks should all be offensive line. I don't even care. You just spent you spent the 101 on a quarterback and
Austin,
got him killed last year.
I've never been a Joe Burrow fan just because that type of quarterback, it doesn't. What do you think his upside is as far now? I'm not even really talking about fantasy. Will he ever be considered like a consensus top 8-ish quarterback?
I think right at the 8 to 10 range is what I think his ceiling is, which is a good ceiling. I mean, I think you saw the downfalls with him last year where they were saying, he didn't create a lot of explosive plays and, but he's a rookie, and I think we always get caught up with because some of these rookies come out fire nowadays, but, I'm willing to give him and Tua, a couple of years before I pass judgment. I'm still willing to bet on Jared Goff a little bit. So,
no,
you're not apparently.
No, Jared Goff without the puppet master pulling his strings. Who's going to be calling plays into him this year? Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn is going to be calling plays into him. And the thing that they did that supposedly they did is they would run scan and Kyle and Sean McVay would tell him the play, what to run at the last minute. I don't see that. I don't see I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in Jared Goff, especially being a franchise quarterback. He wasn't a franchise quarterback in LA. So that's why they got rid of him. So I don't see him being a franchise quarterback without Sean McVay in his ear in Detroit. So like I would like Fields, I would like Penei Sewell, because if we take Penei Sewell, like all right, we can get our quarterback next year. So I think I'm not a big Jared Goff fan. So there's no Detroit is going to have there's no talent around him. There's DeAndre Swift. Their wide receiver, their number one wide receiver is Quintez Cephas. I mean, it's just not a good. Like they signed Damian Ratley, and I was just like, come on, man, like come on, like
the dam's breaking, and you put a Band-Aid on it, like
right,
yeah.
So they can draft Penei Sewell, get a wide receiver or two wide receivers in the third and fourth round. And their defense, there's so much rebuilding that needs to be done. Their front seven is horrible. Their secondary is bad, but they've got two young players there. I mean, there are no pieces to build around other than DeAndre Swift, Jeff Okudah. They've got Decker and I forgot our center's name, Travis. I can't remember. They've got some pieces on the offensive line, but there's not a lot to build around on that team. So
what's up? Do you like Hawkinson? Because you haven't talked about him at all here, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, I do like Hawkinson.
Okay.
I do. I mean, he's like fine. I don't think that Hawkinson is like he's a good tight end. I don't think that he like elevates your offense in any way. Like the way I think that George Kittle does that, Darren Waller does that. Obviously, Travis Kelce does. Kyle Pitts will do that, but I don't think that that's what T.J. Hawkinson does. I don't think that he is like a threat necessarily. He's a good player, but he's not going to stop the Lions from going 3-14 next year. So.
That feels so weird to say.
It does. I got to think about it. Like, yeah, we went 9-8 this year. Now, what's going to get in the playoff? I guess not 9-8, 11-7, or 11-6 to get you in the playoffs. Is it 8 teams? Is it 8 teams that make the playoffs?
It was only 7 last year. Did they up it again?
I thought
was it only 7?
Last year, one team got a bye on each side.
Oh yeah, it is 7. Yeah, one team has a bye, and then 2 plays. Was it 2 plays 6? 3 plays? No, wait. 2 plays 7. 3 plays 6. 4 plays 5. So yeah, it is 7.
All right, I got to send an email, guys.
All right. Well, this was
so.
fun.
I guess I'll